All right. So step one is to create your first calculator. This is sort of the fun part. So let's dive into the site editor. You're going to build your calculators under the formulas tab. And you'll see because I selected exterior cleaning in the setup phase, my account has been pre-populated with some exterior cleaning options. Now, I cannot stress this enough. This is just a starting point. Every business is different. Not only your pricing, but your branding, your colors, how this looks, assuming customers are interacting with this. You want to be doing everything in your power to maximize conversions. Get as many people to complete this form as possible because it's ultimately how it generates revenue and how it becomes a useful and necessary tool for your business. So let's go ahead and start with an example formula, and then I'm going to show you how to build one from scratch. So we'll go into house wash, and it's constructed in 3 different sections, really. You've got the service identity, maybe I should say 4. You've got service identity. This is your icon. This is a service name. I'll remove simple from this. You've got a calculator title. This is mostly useful for internal tracking and SEO purposes, but you can also leave this empty. Then you've got media and settings. I'll get into that last. The most important part is the variables and the formula expression. These are the 2 biggest players within this section. Okay, so for house washing, we've got four variables we're asking for in this example. You can ask 100 if you want to. You can ask 2. Some people literally just want to know the square footage of the house, and then maybe I've had some people not even care about the number of stories, which to me is shocking. But listen, to each their own. Everyone has their own system. Here we're asking for the house height, house square footage, house material, and how many sides. Okay, and here is our formula box. There's also this visual option, which makes it a bit easier to see. You're taking the height, multiplying it by the square footage, multiplied by the material, multiplied by number of sides. So I know this might be a little bit complicated. I think for most of you are probably understanding, okay, that makes basic sense. Now, how do we adjust the pricing in here? So let's say you want to charge 25 cents for vinyl. A person enters the house height. Well, I have height first because that's a big key factor. But in this case, you would set material right here. So we open up the house material. Here are our options: vinyl, brick, stucco. Okay, 25, 30, 32. Now you might be, for those of you who may be confused about this part, this is 0.25. The way we're using this in this formula, when you take 0.25 and you just add it to the formula, it's basically multiplying whatever the number is at that time. Let's say it's 1,000 square feet. Multiply it by 0.25. That brings the price, the total at that point, to $250. Now we're still going to add in house height. Okay, a single story house, you've got to charge more, in my opinion. You've got to charge more for a 2-story house than a single story. I don't understand what circumstances you would charge more for or the same amount for a 2-story. 2-stories, homeowners, it's harder for them to do it themselves. You know, they have these tools out Lowe's that allow them to attach it to the end of their garden hose, spray on the chemical, and clean it. But some people, they don't want to do that, or they've tried it and they're just not able to reach the top. Anyways, I'm going on a tangent. Anyways, that's why I say add these types of variables. You know, 1.23 split level, 1.34. So in this particular case, if they select 2-story, and we would go back to our previous example, 1,000 square feet, 25 cents for vinyl, so we're at $250. Multiply this by 23%. That math's a little bit harder to do in my head, but you know, you could imagine adding 23% to $250. Okay, and we'll go through it and test it, and we'll see what we come up with. Now we're also asking for a number of sides. I've set a lot of Autobidder up for a lot of people. A lot of people would like to cut this option. I personally like to have it, but let's say you don't want that in there. So I've deleted it, and now you'll see that it has turned black from the variable, and we're getting this warning. How many sides does not match variable? This is a warning saying, like, this formula, if you test, it's probably going to show an error because you're adding a null value, basically. So what we're going to do is cut this, and now the warning goes away, and we should be good to go. We can also set a minimum price for house washing. If you don't do one side, which I think it's a good idea to do that, but if you don't, you might want to set an absolute minimum price of $349 for assuming bare minimum. You go up and click save. And let's go test it out. Select house wash. I'm going to do the example from earlier. I said 2-story. I think I said 1,000 square feet and vinyl siding. Now, one catch is I added a minimum price. So I think this is going to be under that minimum price. We'll skip the lead input because we're in test mode. And we get our minimum price of $350 or $349. This is all just the intro. We're going to cover, this was a guide setup. Well, I'll cover this a bit more too, setting up the icons and whatnot, because that is important. We are going to get much deeper into this in the variable section, and then much more deep into the formulas, or into the formula section. So you got your variables, which are the inputs you're collecting from the customer, and then you've got the formulas, which are what take those variables and actually come up with the price, right? Based on your math that you set up. So I do want to cover this part because it's important. If you want to change the icons, there is a library. This is something that we are going to put more effort into. Right now, you've got different icons you can select. You can see I have that house wash one. My personal recommendation is to customize this. If you're actually going to use Autobidder, I recommend customizing this. Now, one cool thing is anyone who signs up for a paid Autobidder account, we will actually go through and manually create custom icons for you. So a human will go through, review the services that you offer, look at your logo, your website to understand your brand, take all of that and then create custom icons that match your existing brand. And we'll also customize the design of your Autobidder too. So if you don't want to, if you feel like this is too much and like the pricing formula is what's important to you, you don't want to clutter your mind up to start, you can always keep that in the back of your mind. Like, okay, just get the pricing done. And if I actually want to implement this and go hardcore, I can have this all taken care of. I don't have to stress about this. It just takes one thing off your plate when it comes to setting this up. However, we'll get into media and settings. This is where you add a description. This is optional, although I do recommend doing it. You can add highlights. You can add a guide video for that specific service, which is pretty useful, and I recommend doing that. Keep the guide video short, 20 seconds max. Explain, hey, this is the information we need for house washing. We want to know the material, the average height, and then explain like simple things that may be common things customers have. So for example, split level. It's like part of your house is 2 stories, part of your house is 1. You can even add split level as an option, but basically explain things that might make it easier for the customer to understand what it is you need, especially if you anything complicated. Here's where you'll turn on the measure map or the photo measure tool. Again, there will be a whole section dedicated to this, but I think you probably already understand the concept behind that. Here's where we're going to add upsells. Again, we're going to have a whole section dedicated to this. And we're also going to have a section dedicated to variables and formulas, as well as minimum and max pricing. Okay. So next, we're going to cover in depth the variables, and we are going to build out a pricing formula from scratch. I'm going to show you a few different ways that you can do that.